Hi, I'm Colette here today on Witch Ways, and I want to share some ideas and a few cautions on starting out as a witch or getting into it more regularly. There's lots of ways to do this, and to start, there's no one right way, so just take the ideas that resonate with you and enjoy and practice. I have videos on most of these tips, and you can check out my channel for that. Tip number 1, read, research, research. All types of books from all different kinds of witchcraft. Social media has a lot of really awesome people on it right now. You can take a basic course of witchcraft with someone who has some experience, and I would also really encourage you to explore the different types of witchcraft that are out there. What draws you in? What seems most exciting to you? Is it a green witch, kitchen witch, all the sea witch, water witch, diviner witch, all the different types? Also, there's styles and traditions of witchcraft. There's very formal, there's informal, there's ecstatic, there's ceremonial, there's folk magic, and there is lots and lots and lots of ways. So explore it all. I definitely don't think that you should label yourself right away as I'm a this or I'm a that. I do find, however, that if you notice a particular area of witchcraft, like green witchery, it can draw you in and allow you to really focus on a smaller bit of witchcraft and get that part of it in your body before you try to do more advanced things. Tip number 2 is really straightforward. Learn to cast a circle. Not everyone casts a circle, and you don't have to cast a circle every time you practice witchcraft, but it does add an extra layer of containment for your focus as well as protection. I think it's a good thing even if you don't use it all the time, because when you need it, you need it. Tip number 3. Learn how to clear space. Try to do it regularly. I, for example, often do it during waning moon or dark moon, and I always do it before performing any magic. You can do that with burning herbs. You can do that with herbal tea spritzers or essential oil spritzers. You can do it with sound. You can do it by chanting with your voice. There's a lot of different ways to do it. And I would say if you run into something that won't move and won't clear out, that's a really good time to ask a more experienced witch for help. Tip number 4 is working with altars. And altars are really helpful. They can be very simple. They don't have to be complex. I have a lot of altars. This is one of my many altars I have around, but none of them need to be as complex as that. I just like creating them. They help focus your magic on the intention that you desire and the outcome that you desire. They give you something to really look at and focus on as you're doing your magic. They also can act as magical gates that open to where the magic is that you're trying to achieve, and bring that through into the physical realm. I always believe in taking a physical action as well to allow the magic to enter the human realm more easily. It can be as simple as a plate or a tray that you are setting things out on, or just a candle and a cloth. There's lots and lots of ways to make very simple altars. Tip number 5. Learn the basics of moon magic. And you definitely don't have to work with moon magic if you don't want to as a witch. Probably my video next week is going to be on that. But they can really give your magic a boost and help set the tone when you're just beginning, and to have a little bit more of the kind of energy you're trying to achieve, pushing on the magic. It's sort of like having the wind in your sails. You can use moon magic in a very simple way or more complex way. At its simplest, you can work with waxing moon, which is between new and full, for starting or growing kinds of magic. You can work with full moon for culmination magic. You can work with waning or dark moon magic for releasing, dispelling, and banishing magic. The other thing I would say is to record everything. Spells that you run across with room for notes, videos that you watch, take notes on it about things that are exciting. You can put dreams and readings down in your record book. And I keep a journal for that because I really do tend to write down everything. And in order to keep it organized, one of the tips that I've found really helpful is to, up in the upper right hand corner of the page, just write 2 or 3 things that are on that page, like full moon magic spell, dream at full moon, odd coincidence that happened that maybe means something, and then you can put the date. And I find that really, really, really helpful as you're thumbing through. And then later, maybe once a month or every quarter, you can put things that you really like or you want to try or you have tried in an actual book of shadows where it's not so random and it's very organized. One longtime witch that I know makes her book of shadows and organizes it by seasons, and I believe by moon as well. And what she does is she has a little pocket on the page to put notes in of things that she wants to try, or also she might print out, and this is something I've seen other people do as well, print out oracle or divination readings and tuck that into the pocket for future reference. And then you can make the rest of your page all pretty and nice. And if you're artistic, I'm not super artistic in that particular way. And if you're watching, Deborah, thanks so much for sharing your video of your Book of Shadows with me. I really appreciate it. Tip number 7, working with the seasons. Research the magic of the seasons, whether that's the wheel of the year, like summer solstice, Samhain, those 8 holidays that we think of as the wheel of the year, or whether it's just more regional, seasonal, like spring, summer, fall, winter, or dry season, wet season. Once you research a little bit about what other people say about the season, I think it's really important for yourself to just research on your own and notice what that season feels like to you magically. What kinds of things do you feel drawn to do, or what do you enjoy doing magically at that season? I think that's how you start to develop your own practice and deepen it. Tip number 8. Working with beings. That's a personal choice, and there are lots of different kinds of beings. Not everyone works with them, not everyone chooses to, and that is up to you. There are beings that are like deities, land spirits, ancestors, and there's also a lot of supernatural beings associated with any particular region that you might want to research. And this is a place where I personally feel that it is super helpful to work with your own bloodline. That is most familiar in your body and your DNA, which is where I feel like a lot of our magical practices come from, somatically in our body. And it also avoids cultural appropriation, which is always good. Research what the beings you want to work with like. How do they like to be called? What are their stories? What kind of gifts do they like and things do they favor? What kind of powers do they have? For instance, ancestors are very helpful with protecting and allowing their descendants to prosper and be safe and well. And what they like is to be remembered and occasionally to be fed with things that they would have ingested in their lifetime. Tip number 9, working with plants. Even if you aren't going to be a green witch or an herbalist, it's super useful to work with plants, at least to know a few basics. Herbs that are useful for invoking or clearing or banishing. They can really add a boost to your magic as a beginner or deepen your practice, and they also can help carry the magic if you are having a difficult time. Doesn't take many. You can get to know 5 and go from there. Tip number 10, ask for help when you need it. If anything ever feels off or not right or scary when you're doing magic, just stop what you're doing and clear the space and put up some kind of protection, whether that's herb bundles or spritzing salt water, whatever your personal practice is for protection, which is a good thing to know about beforehand. If what you're doing doesn't get rid of the thing that feels uncomfortable, I would say to seek out experienced help. And this is tip sort of 10 and a half, is it's good to have a bit of a network of witchy people that you can call on to ask questions of, or to give you a referral if you need it, even if you're really committed to practicing as a solo witch. Tip number 11 is to practice focusing. This is a really big one. That's a whole video in and of itself, and maybe I'll make a video about that someday. There are a lot of techniques out there in beginning witchcraft books and on the web and on YouTube. And for now, what I would suggest as a simple way to start is either to have a written out phrase that has to do with what you're trying to achieve, and keep your mind, thoughts, and maybe even your voice focused on that, and just repeat that phrase as you're doing the magic so that you help stay focused. The other technique that I prefer slightly is to start to imagine what the magic that you're doing might feel like in your body, and then expand into that feeling, letting your body soften and feel that energy deeply. That one's a bit more advanced. That might take some time. Start with saying the intention maybe. And I also find that if your mind strays away, as our minds tend to do as Westerners, that it's easy to just say, no, back to the intention. It's like training a puppy or herding a dog. It's like, no, back to the intention. No, back to the intention. No, back to the intention. You don't have to like stop and start all over. Just bring yourself back to your intention. Tip number 12 is have a daily practice or a weekly practice or a monthly practice, and then gradually build up. Try a few quick things that you do regularly. Spending time at your altar, making offerings, just noticing and taking a few minutes to check in with the moon phase or the season are all quick and easy things that you can do. The more you do it, the more muscle you develop and the easier it gets to go forward. Tip number 13, don't overcommit yourself to magic. It's important to stop when you feel uninspired. Often learning takes a period of integration before you can move to the next step. Sometimes magic takes time to settle before you can do the next thing. Also, don't immediately start a coven. Don't commit to that until you've worked with people for quite a while, maybe at least a year. And maybe be flexible. Don't call it a coven right away. Call it a working group. Let people come and go, because a lot of times people say they want to do things, but will they actually show up and do it is a whole nother thing. And then right away you're starting out with a group with a lot of frustration about workload and some people wanting more than others. So work in a more casual way before you even consider doing a coven. Covens are kind of for life. You can break them up, but you still have a connection to them. Don't expect an unrealistic amount of work or progress for yourself. You develop deeper over time. Look at your life. What is reasonable for you to accomplish? Tip number 14, start with simple workings or spells as you begin doing witchcraft. Even if you're wanting to just up your witchcraft game and do a little bit more, do more shorter things and easier things more often before you launch into something complex. Because if you make it complex, you won't do it. You won't have the time. And that goes for daily practices as well. If it's complex, you won't do it. Witchy shorts often provide good ideas for simple spells. After all, if they're describing it in less than 60 seconds, it's usually fairly simple. I, for example, recently made a very complex spell that I put up on my Patreon page for my subscribers, and then I made it public, and I have a variant on there that is simpler. So it gives you a kind of a good model of how to take a more complex spell and make it simple if you find something in a book that is really complex. I'll try and remember to put a link to that video below. I'm going to keep it public for a couple of weeks. Tip number 15 is divination. Divination is so useful in witchcraft. When you are ready, and this is more advanced, learn a few divination skills. The other tip I have for beginners or people who are launching into divination is it's super helpful to have some kind of separate divination practice that just gives you a yes or a no answer, rather than trying to do a really complex reading. That can be pendulum, that can be flipping coins, that can be using your body to get a yes or a no answer on something. And this is another skill, all this divination stuff that really takes a lot of time to develop and a lot of skills. I've been doing divination for 45 or more years, and I still sometimes have difficulty. So start simple. I hope you enjoyed this video today, and if you found it useful, I'd love to hear in the comments what was most useful to you as a beginner or someone looking to deepen their practice. Also, it really helps me if you like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. I'd also really appreciate if you check out my Patreon page for monthly magic and spells. And as I said, there is that complex spell on there that is open to the public right now for a limited time. Until I see you next time, stay safe and be well.